Hey guys, thanks so much. I'm delighted to be here for this next session. Why you, yes, you need to think like a TV network and stop, please stop random acts of social media. I am, in fact, Jay Baer, founder of Convince and Convert, advisor to some of the world's most iconic brands, longtime digital marketing and customer experience expert, Hall of Fame keynote speaker, author of 6 books, and well-known wearer of plaid. I'll be your entertainment for the next 18 or so minutes. Delighted to be here. I think it's true, and we all know this, that competition is tougher than ever. And what do we do when competition gets fierce? Well, it's human nature, really. In response, in many cases, what we do is we make more. We make more pages. We make more content. We produce more social media. We just push a little bit harder to get new clients. But the reality is, when we opt for this approach, when we push a little bit harder, sometimes that doesn't feel so good to our clients and prospective clients. In fact, this, my friends, is how it feels to your customers and prospects when you push a little too hard.
Howdy, y'all. This here's Mike. Down at Mike's Golf Shop, where we buy golf. That's right. We buy golf clubs. Mike's Golf Shop. Come on over here. We buy golf clubs. Over at Mike's Golf Shop. Come on down here. We buy golf clubs. That's right. We buy golf clubs. We buy golf clubs. We buy golf clubs. We buy golf clubs. We buy golf clubs.
What does he buy? Golf clubs. Look, if you're from Tennessee in the USA, he's one of your folks, so congratulations. Look, I will give that an A for message consistency, call to action. Very, very consistent. Lower marks for subtlety. But this is how it feels to your customers when you come on a little too strong, and you don't have to do that. There is another way. Here's the truth. To succeed with social media, or with search for that matter, in order for that to work, it's not about pushing harder. It's not about spending more necessarily. If you want it to work, your customers and your fans need to help it spread, right? The best way to get customers, the best way to get attention is for your customers to do that for you. But there's a couple things that have to happen for that to work. How do you actually do that? Well, first, if you're going to make social content, if you're going to make content of any kind, it has to be somebody's absolute favorite thing of that type in the world. So many people ask me, because I do a lot of podcasting. I'm the host of the Social Pros podcast, host of the Standing Ovation podcast as well. And my team and I produce a dozen or so shows. And people say, well, should I start a podcast? And I say, well, yes, if you have a way for your podcast to be somebody's favorite show in the world. The problem with most social and the problem with most content of any kind is that it tries to please too many people. All of us, including myself, we all tell ourselves the same lie, right? We say, well, look, the problem is, the reason I can't succeed, the reason nobody pays attention to me on Facebook or LinkedIn or Twitter or Reddit or TikTok or beyond is that they just don't have time, see? They don't have time to pay attention. They don't have time to go to the YouTube channel. They don't have time to sit on a webinar. And that is absolutely not true. It's not about time. Because when you give somebody what they want in the format they prefer, and you give it to them when they need it, the time necessary to consume that thing magically appears. See? Relevancy creates time, and relevancy creates attention. Relevancy is the killer app. Relevancy is the coin of the realm. So if you're going to do something in social media, and I suspect you are if you're paying attention to what I'm saying to you right now, you have to ask yourself a different question, right? You have to ask yourself this: what is the perfect content for a specific audience versus what is pretty good content for a broader audience, right? Specificity is your friend, not your enemy. Now, the second thing you got to do to stop random acts of social and succeed with this is that your content has to be found and consumed, right? We're all fighting against the same algorithms, the same people sort of ignoring what we're doing. And in order to fight against that, we have to make sure that content is locatable by our customers. Look, the truth is that for most of us, fewer than 1% of our actual audience in social media sees what we post. If you have 100,000 fans on a Facebook page and you put something on that Facebook page, in almost every case, fewer than 1,000 of them will see it. How do you fight against that? Well, I think you need to think like a television network and create shows. Every TV network in the world, ESPN, NBC, Lifetime, HGTV, Food Network, et cetera, they all have different shows, right? Thursday at 4 is a show. Saturday at 2 is a show. It is a consistent execution, and you need to do the same thing. Stop random acts of social. Why would we do that? What are the benefits of social media shows? Well, first, you get a lot of efficiencies in terms of how you create content and promote content. When you're doing similar things over and over, you get faster and better at it, and you gain efficiencies over time. Second, as you do the same kind of work in social repeatedly, your audience will notice it and tune in a way that they simply cannot when you approach social media from a random standpoint. Third, because your audience will find it, they will engage with it. Because they will engage with it, that tells the algorithms in social media that what you are publishing has merit, and they consequently will show it to more people. The rich get richer, you see. Fourth, when you do something consistently, it creates downstream memorability and awareness, right? Doing something once is unlikely to break through. Sometimes things go viral, but usually they don't. If you do the same kind of thing over and over and over, eventually it starts to take root. And it allows you to repeat your calls to action, right? Again, if you're going to do a one-off in social media, and maybe have a very compelling call to action, because it's a one-off, the chance of it actually succeeding is not very high. But if you have a show that you're going to do over and over and over, the chance of that call to action being acted upon at some point go up mathematically. So what constitutes a show? What are the ingredients of a show? Well, first, a show requires you to have a consistent target audience, or maybe a couple different target audiences, right? You're trying to reach the same people, the same types of people each time out. Second, consistent format. A show is a show in that it is executed and produced the same way. It is a podcast. It is a video show. It is an ebook. It is a series of interviews on Facebook. It's not one day an interview and the next day it's an interactive quiz. That's not a show. That is, again, random, which is what we don't want. Third, a consistent distribution window and a consistent amplification schema, meaning that if you're going to have a show that is episodic, I'll talk more about in a second, it's always Wednesdays at 2, right? Just like a regular television network. And you always amplify it the same way. You always use 2 organic tweets to promote the episode and 1 paid Instagram post, or whatever the circumstances might be. And the calls to action should be consistent, right? You're asking the audience to do the same thing every time they engage with this particular type of social media content. There are 3 types of shows. 3 types of shows I want you to create. First, most importantly, the binge-worthy show. This is the episodic, consistent execution, which is most similar to what we see in many cases in television, right? So these binge-worthy shows are usually top of the funnel, right? So broader. They're not necessarily about your product. They're not answering detailed product information. It is more entertainment focused and broader education type of content. Usually these shows are video series, YouTube, LinkedIn video, Facebook video, IGTV, or audio, a podcast. Not always, but that's usually how it works. Pretty high production value, because you're going to commit to this on usually a weekly basis. Some are daily, some are less than weekly, but the most common cadence for a binge-worthy show is weekly. Your mileage may vary. Call to action on these kind of shows is not buy stuff, right? It's not listen to my podcast, give me money. That's very abrupt. Call to action on a binge-worthy show is to subscribe. What you want to have happen is an individual person finds the show, likes the show, and says, I want to listen or watch this show every week, right? So the CTA is subscribe, not buy. Here's an example of a binge-worthy show, a project that my team and I at Convince and Convert do for Oracle. It's called On the Fly. Each week we have a different marketing expert create a little video with a marketing tip. Here's one from Ian Cleary.
Hey, this is Ian Cleary from Razor Social, and this is Marketing on the Fly, small bites of marketing training dispensed while traveling. I'm in Dublin, Ireland at the moment. I'm at the train station. It's my first part of my journey on the way to the US. So my tip today is about influencer outreach. Instead of reaching out to an influencer and immediately looking for something from them, focus on what they want, not what you want. So I'll give you 2 examples. Imagine if you want a guest post on their website. Well, instead of reaching out asking about guest posting, why don't you reach out with something of value? For example, say there are some keywords you notice that they're not ranking for that could drive them a lot of potential traffic. Of course, the influencer wants lots of traffic, so you're offering something of value. The second example is if the influencer has a book, they want to get reviews, they want to get ratings, they want to get more promotion of the book. So reach out to them and say, hey, I'm going to write a testimonial. Where do you want me to write the testimonial? And do you want a video testimonial? So focus on what they want initially, not what you want, and you'll get a lot better results with your influencer outreach. This is Ian Cleary, all the way from Dublin, Ireland, going to the US, and this is Marketing on the Fly, small bites of marketing training dispensed while traveling. Go to onthefly.expert and binge watch the marketing training.
So we do that every single week with a different marketing influencer. A terrific example of a binge-worthy show. It goes on the LinkedIn page and the blog and the YouTube channel of Oracle at the same time every single week. Closer to my own life, I have a podcast called Social Pros about enterprise social media management. This is an episode we did earlier this year with Alex from FedEx. We're now at 424 episodes of the show weekly since 2012. Second type of show are special event shows. So this would be in television land, something like the Emmys or the Grammys or the ESPYs or a special broadcast look back or The Last Dance, the Michael Jordan documentary recently. It's that kind of thing. It's a special program that occurs once or over a short run. In our world, that might be something like a webinar or an ebook or a report. Usually these special event shows are mid-funnel, right? So it's not super detailed product information, and it's not very broad entertainment and information like the Bingeworthy show. It's in between, right? So it's equal parts entertainment and information. It is exactly what we're doing here at this summit. This is an example of a special event show. The summit doesn't happen every week, and it's mid-funnel in terms of its orientation. As mentioned, these are often white papers, webinars, reports. Most of these special event shows are characterized as such because they gather data, right? High production value, as you see right here in this program, and they're usually monthly or quarterly. So you're going to want to try and do maybe a monthly report, a monthly ebook, a monthly webinar, possibly quarterly, something like that. Certainly not weekly in most businesses, but still on a semi-consistent basis. And the call to action on these type of shows is to download or register RSVP, etc. What you're trying to do is gather data. You're gathering data from prospects to create a lead and push them further down into the funnel. And that's true whether you're B2B or B2C. Same idea. For example, here's a sort of special event show from our friends at Podium. We do a lot of work with them. This is a webinar about text messaging, 3 reasons your business needs text messaging more than you think. This is a terrific complete guide within a companion webinar. You register, you get both. There you go, right? Third type of show. News and updates, right? NBC has news, ABC has news, CNN has news, Fox News is news, etc. And these are the regular updates that you have in social media, which is what most people do in social media, period. They only have this kind of show, and that's the wrong approach. These are usually mid to low funnel. And the way to think of this kind of social media content is that it's most similar to what you might put in an email newsletter. It's like, hey, this thing happened. Want to keep you informed. Want to make sure you're on top of this, right? It's little updates for your customers, fans, and prospects rendered in a social media environment. So these are often short posts, product announcements, content that is sort of time sensitive. Here's what's happening this week, tonight's specials, etc. Lowest production value because it doesn't have a long-term shelf life. Most of this content is valid for a few days and then it doesn't really matter anymore. So you're not going to invest tons of time and money into it in most cases. Usually this content is daily. This is the stuff that you put in social media every day, and then you use this content to surround your special events and your binge-worthy shows. Calls to action on these are typically either, hey, no call to action needed, just want to make sure you know this customer, or click on this to go to a web page, right? So it's either a click or information. Here's an example from my friends at Cardinal Spirits. They're a distillery here in Bloomington, Indiana, where I live. Like many distilleries, they have pivoted during the pandemic to creating hand sanitizer. Here, though, they're saying that fresh off the bottling line vodka, we now have vodka. We have restocked vodka, right? So they're just letting people know, guess what? Now we have vodka. Great example of a news and update via social. One of the ways to keep track of this, to make sure that you are creating all three types of shows and that you're not sort of crossing the streams and you're keeping very intentional about your calls to action as well, is to use what we call a content execution brief. And so for every single thing you ever put in social media, I want you to consider using one of these briefs. You say, what's the name of the show? Who are we targeting with the show? What are the questions we're answering with this show? What type of show is it? Bingeworthy, special event, news and update. Where is it? Is it Facebook? Is it Twitter? Is it video? Is it a haiku? What type of show is it? And then the end of the form looks like this: atomization. So if it's a bigger project, like a special event or a binge-worthy show, what are the smaller pieces that we could spin off of that? Highlight reels, infographics, greatest hits, etc. And then at the end, what are the desired behaviors after people consume this show? So if somebody looks at the Cardinal Spirits vodka post, what do we want them to do? Best thing they could do, get in their car, come to Cardinal Spirits, buy vodka. That's number one, right? What's number two? They go to the website and order vodka online. Number three, something else, right? So for every single piece of social media content you create, you will be much better off, trust me, if you actually overtly write down on this form, what are the three things in order you want people to do after they consume that content, regardless of show format. I want you to have this brief. Usually we include this in social media strategy engagements that we do at Convince and Convert, but I want you to use this because I know it will make you better. Just go here to cnc.ly/SEJ brief, all lowercase, friends. Make sure you use the lowercase, and you can download it right now. It won't cost you anything, as a PDF or as an Excel file. So please take it, use it. Any questions, let me know. You can see my Twitter handle there at the bottom of the screen. 3 takeaways for you. Number 1, to gain attention, ironically, perhaps paradoxically, be specific, not broad. Second, random social media rarely works. It works less than ever because of the algorithms. Customers and algorithms want content consistency from you. Third, use 3 types of shows to add order and effectiveness and awesome to your social media program. And you, yes, you will reap the benefits. Thanks so much for having me. I am Jay Baer from Convince and Convert. ConvinceAndConvert.com is our main site. More than 3,000 articles for marketers just like you. And I'll be back in just a little bit to answer some questions. Take care.